What's up, bro family? We are this close to Brigade of this guy coming out, and they have now released all the cards that are going to be in the set. So let's take a look at the final batch here and see what our thoughts are. Metera Peerless Shot, 4.43 gold Forestcraft follower. Flash draw card. Evolve, deal X damage to an enemy follower. X equals the number of cards in your hand. Clash draw card. This is really good. It's one of those 4 play point evolve answer 2 threats thing, but it also gives you more card advantage. And the stat line is on curve for that effect. Of course, you get less stats on the evolve, but I still think that the effect is powerful enough to warrant that kind of thing. It's about the same stat rise as, say, something like Priest of the Cudgel, but for Forestcraft, and the fact that it can refill your hand as well is it's pretty good. I think it has a place in mid-range lists. We'll see how that shakes out, though. We also have, in terms of new cards, Witherwood Guardian. 5.36 with Ward, Silver Forestcraft follower. Whenever this follower's attack or defense is increased by a spell or effect, deal 1 damage to a random enemy follower. I think this is a bit slow and bulky for buff Forestcraft to make really good use of it, and the effect payout for buffing it isn't that strong. It's kind of like an Adept Archer, right? I think, if I'm remembering the cards right. I think it's better to use your fills on stuff like your Fitas to propagate your draw engine, or your White Venaras for your big finishers, right? This seems like less of a priority to fit in that list. I don't think it's that great. And finally, for Forestcraft, last card here is Devil Flower, 2.21. Fanfare, destroy an enemy amulet if at least 2 other cards are played this turn. I don't think it's very good, but it's a tech card that kind of needs to exist if Tenko's Shrine is going to be a thing. These kinds of cards have to be options that classes can play, so I'm glad that Forestcraft's getting this Bronze Follower as an answer to that kind of strategy, but I don't think it's all that great. Because otherwise, it's a 2.21, which is only and in a combo-oriented classic Forestcraft, a lot of the time that's not really good enough. We'll see, though. If Tenko Shrine becomes something that has to be answered, then I wouldn't be surprised to see Devil Flower run just to answer that. But of course, that's not really the effect that you want to be proccing with your at least 2 other cards played this turn kind of effect. But it's okay. It's a tech card for sure, and tech cards have to be like worse than average in terms of stat line. But it's not awful enough to just completely write it off. I think this can be run, given the right meta. Okay, moving on. Swordcraft remaining cards here. Age-worn Weaponry, 2 play point Silver Amulet. If an allied Swordcraft follower is in play, if you have 2 play points at least, play this as either a Great Shield or a Great Sword, and the non-choose form is at the end of your opponent's turn, summon a Knight, so you got a Knight with Storm, basically. Which isn't so good. It's like 2 Knights with Storm for 2 play points. It's not that great. You basically get 2 Quick Bladers for 1 card. If I'm thinking about that right? You play this, and your opponent's turn counts down 1, and then your opponent's turn just counts down 1, yeah. So you get 2 Knights. Or give a Swordcraft follower +0/+1, and last words, summon a Shield Guardian. Okay. Or give an allied Swordcraft follower +1/+0, summon a Heavy Knight on last words. I think none of these effects are impactful enough to warrant running this, especially since it doesn't cycle itself. I feel like Swordcraft lists are going to be way too optimized to run something like Age-worn Weaponry, and this is a card that's probably for the other formats like Take-Two. This seems like it's way too low impact to take up a deck slot. I mean, if you just take a look at a card by itself, you can talk about it all you want, but the fact of the matter is that taking up a deck slot has a cost, and it's just not worth it, I don't think. Especially since there's so many things Swordcraft would rather be doing on 2 play points, right? Grand Auction! Discard a card from your hand, draw a card, put an Age-worn Weaponry into your hand. Okay! Now we're kind of understanding what this might be all about. This is a 2-for-1 card, right? You discard a card that maybe you don't need in that game, you draw a card, and you put an additional resource into your hand. This might actually see more play than the actual Age-worn Weaponry, just because this probably has more utility, being able to get through your deck faster, and then also giving you a little bonus on the side. This one is actually better than the straight-up card it gives you. I still don't know if it's going to be a thing that anybody runs, unless you're playing some weird like Spartacus list that really just wants to run all the card draw in the world. But hey, at least they're supporting Spartacus as an archetype, and Grand Auction might be something that you might want to run in that kind of list. Moving on, Runecraft. How many cards are left for Runecraft here? We've talked about most of these already. I think we've already talked about all of the Runecraft cards, actually. Looks like it. Wow, okay. Moving on then. Dragoncraft. We've talked about all of these. Oh, this is new. Venom Tail Salamander. 3.13. Bane Ward. Can only attack if Overflow is active for you. It's fine. It's like a take-two card, right, I think. I don't think this is really gonna be... actually... Could this see play in PDK? No, I don't think so, right? Like, it's really easily removed by... Because there's a lot of classes with 2-play point deal 3. Well, is there? Zombie Party's rotating out. Breath of the Sala is not in here anymore. It's an interesting one. This might be like a card that's actually super annoying to deal with for the opposing side. I'm gonna have to like put a bookmarker in this, but right now I don't think it's quite good enough to see play in the optimized list, but I think this might be the card that catches people off guard, and it's kind of hard to deal with. The problem is that the stat line is like not good at all for 3-play points, but it's a defensive option for Dragon at 3, which is counter placing, what's it called, the Master of Draconic Arts. I'm not sure if that's rotating out or not, but essentially it's just a defensive option that has Bane and can take down threats larger than it, but the only thing holding it back is this really lackluster stat line, right? And the fact that it can't attack unless Overflow is active for you. I think if it could attack, then this card would be really good. So that's probably why they put that restriction on it. With that restriction that it can only attack if Overflow is active for you, this card becomes okay at the very, very best. But I think this might surprise some people. Like, my head says this card is just filler, but my heart says I want to play it. Maybe it's just because it looks cool. I don't know. It's the Dragon main in me. Fiendish Wraith Knight, 3-play point, gold Shadowcraft follower, 2-1. Fanfare. Gain last words, summon a Fiendish Wraith Knight. Or you can play it for 5, and it has deal 3 damage to a random enemy follower. Interesting. I think at 3 it's like really good, right? It's a 2-1 that gives you a 2-1 that they have to use like a Blackened Scripture, Cudgel, or Paradise Vanguard on. That's like a lot of value. You could play this on 3 and get another 2-1 back. Of course, it doesn't go perpetually, because it's Fanfare Gain last words, right? That's the whole point there. But still, that's, what, 4-2 stats for 3-play points? That's pretty good. And it's a sticky follower for Shadowcraft to have. The Enhanced 5 is really expensive for a randomized effect, so I'm not so sure about that one. And I think it overrides the summon a Fiendish Wraith Knight? No, wait, maybe it doesn't. If you get both of the last words, then that's alright. But still, I think on 5 it's a bit of a heavy price to pay, but on 3 it's actually pretty cool. Stygian Warden, 4-play point 2-3. Burial Rite, destroy a random enemy follower. This is like kind of a replacement to a Lurching Corpse Soul Conversion, but way later. And you have to give up resources to do it rather than gaining card advantage, so I think it's a lot worse. And it's a 2-3 stat line at 4 play points. But hey, at least Shadowcraft is actually getting the removal that they need in the early to mid game. Probably not as good as Lurching Corpse by any means, but yeah, I think this card is like mediocre. But this destroy random enemy follower effect is something that Shadowcraft has been missing. So that might be something that you want to consider when you're building a deck. Maybe Stygian Warden is the right answer for you. We've talked about all of these. I think that's it. Oh wait, no, here we go. Golden Casket right at the very end here. If you have at least 5 play points, choose. Play this card as either a Profane Resurrection or a Fabled Treasure. And the non-5 play point version. So you can play it for 2 play points, and it has, whenever an allied follower is destroyed, destroy this amulet. Last word, summon a zombie. What? So at 2 play points, it's just a delayed 2-2 for 2. Which seems really bad. Because you could just be playing a 2 play point 2-2. But let's see the 5 play point options here. Profane Resurrection. When an allied follower is destroyed, destroy this amulet, summon a lich and a zombie. Okay, I see. Or, when an allied follower is destroyed, destroy this amulet. Last words, draw 2 cards, restore 2 defense to your leader, and gain 2 shadows. Now that's interesting. That's really heavy for 5 though. But this is really easy to proc, so you play 5 play points for 6 stats, which is okay. Or you play 5 play points for for a lot of resources defensively as well. This card is pretty versatile. I kind of like it. And it pays for that by having its 2 play point version be lackluster, but its 5 play point versions are strong. The only problem is that it is a little bit slow, right? But it's not bad. I like it. And I really like the flavor of it as well. The fact that it's a golden casket that either has some bad mojo inside or a bunch of treasure. It's a bit weird that it's in the Grand Blue Fantasy expansion, but there you go. Moving on, Bloodcraft Legendary, Person, 10.66, Accelerate 9. Is that a Jabberwock effect, but also for amulets? Okay. And it also has Stormbane, so it's like a Jabberwock that synergizes with itself. I like the idea that they're going for here. I just don't know that Bloodcraft has any of the tools it needs to support this. Bloodcraft really is carried by the amount of 2-drops it has. And if you're running a ton of 2-drops, you can't really build your deck in such a way that you get the optimized pulls from the Person Accelerate effect. What I do like is that it does synergize with itself, so you have the chance to pull the Storm and Bane Person version. If you've played the other Person for Accelerate 9, you can pull it out of your deck with Storm and Bane. But at 10.66 with Storm and Bane, that's like a really, really lackluster Zeus, right? That isn't defensive at all, but with 1 more damage. It's like a really slow version of Jabberwock for controlling Bloodcraft, but in a class that doesn't have ramp and can't really support it with the fact that they have to run small playpoint followers in Blood, whereas in Dragon you can kind of skimp on the small playpoint followers because ramp is a thing. So I think this card is an interesting idea, but way too slow for the class it's in. That's just my thoughts on it right now. Who knows? Watch me get wrecked by that. When somebody figures it out. Zahek, the Curse Branded. That's a 3.42 Bloodcraft Bronze. Evolve, deal 1 damage to an enemy follower. Vengeance is not active for you. Deal 1 damage to all enemy followers. Or to all enemies, if Vengeance is active for you. It's a 3.42, which is a bit fragile for that stat line, and you have to evolve to get the Lyrial Ping effect. But you know what? This is actually not that bad. It's okay. But I don't think it warrants a deck slot, I think, in Bloodcraft. Yeah. I think this card is probably underrated. I haven't seen anybody talking about this. I think this card is perfectly fine. The fact that you have to evolve to get that benefit is kind of a bummer. But a 4-2 for 3 is really aggressively statted. Even though it's fragile. And it gains full stats on evolve as well. It's like a Lyrial 1 turn later. And it doesn't curve as well, right? Because Lyrial you can play it if you're going second on 4 with another 2-drop. Here you play Zehek on 4 with another 1-drop. Which is still fine, right? You can play like aggro Bloodcraft, run Zehek, have a lot of 1-drops, and then turn 4 you have some reactive tool as well. I think this card is okay. At first I was kind of down on it because of the 2 health stat line, but it's actually not that bad. Bewitching Succubus, 2.22, enhance 4, summon 2 forest bats. It's a 2.22 that can become a 4.44, I guess. For that list. Weird, it doesn't... I think it's fine. It's more support for Bat Bloodcraft. I think they didn't... They printed a bunch of support for bats, and it didn't really take off with stuff like Raven. I just don't know if bats is going to be the way to go for Bloodcraft. But if you want to try it, this might be a tool you want to run. I just don't think that it's all that great in rotation right now, frankly. We'll see what happens in the next expansion, but Raven didn't really support the archetype enough to make it see any sort of play. So I'm a little wary of Bewitching Succubus doing that. Especially, it takes up a lot of board slots for 4 play points, and if you're an aggro deck and you're not kind of full up at 4, I'm not so sure. It is just more bats for Old Blood King, so it makes that more consistent, I guess. I don't know. It just seems kind of middle of the road to me. It seems like clear support for an archetype that I'm just not sure is going to pan out. And for Havencraft here, we have a couple cards. Prism Swing. It's Prison Priestess back, but this time as a spell. And a completely different effect. Silver, deal 4 damage to an enemy follower for 3. And put a Holy Lion Crystal into your hand. This card is pretty good, man. I mean, it's straight up 3 play point, deal 4 damage, which is really efficient removal. And put a Holy Lion Crystal into your hand. Supports that Holy Lion Crystal budget archetype. That probably still won't be a thing. I don't think that that's going to keep up with the amount of aggression coming from Forestcraft and Swordcraft in the next expansion. At least that's my prediction anyway. But I like that they're printing this, and it's an okay card for, again, I think a really lackluster archetype. Moving on, we have Angelic Idol, 5.55, which with ward and can't attack. Evolved, this follower of an allied amulet is destroyed during your turn. And when it's evolved, it can attack. Huh. So what is this for? Like a mid-rangey amulet build? I don't know. 5.55 with ward and can't attack. Maybe I'm just optimistic, but my first reaction was, oh, this is not gonna see any play. But then in my mind, I just think about all the ways that this can see play. And it's kind of a threat that has to be dealt with, right? Because the body is big enough. You play this on 5, and you already have some amulets on the board, in the cooker, ready to pop, give you a delicious turkey. And then this becomes a 6/6 boy that can swing face. So this could be a thing in like a mid-Havencraft, which we haven't really seen a lot. That's interesting. I'm gonna toy around with this, man. I think this is underestimated, maybe. And it's also like a solid defensive option, right? I don't know. This is the downside is that you just play a 5.155, which is just stats, and then does nothing for you on board, and then just gets removed, right? But this is a thing. This is an actual thing that can happen. So I'm interested to see how this pans out, actually. Maybe I'm just an eternal optimist for cards. That's one thing I tend to realize about myself when I'm doing card reviews, that I'm so optimistic about cards, even if they're bad. I'm just like, oh, but how can it see play? Is how I view things. 0 play point, Havencraft Bronze Amulet, the last card for Havencraft here. If you have at least 2 play points, choose play this card as either a Sacred Teachings or a Forbidden Teachings, or play it as a 0 play point, countdown 1, last words draw a card. Well, 0 play point, draw a card is, it's alright, man. I'm okay with it. And 2 play point, summon a Holy Falcon, okay. Or draw 2 cards, and then followers can't be played until the start of your opponent's turn. So you can't... What? So you can't play followers that turn? The turn this pops, you can't play followers? Oh, that's kind of a... That's interesting. So it's like trying to incentivize you to play more spells and amulets? I think this card is already good, because it's a 2 play point summon, Holy Falcon, or draw a card. So this is already a pretty good card. This is what I'm interested in, though. That's interesting. I'll have to see if I can make use of that with a really heavy amulet and spell build, but I think this card is solid overall, just because it already has 2 really good effects bundled into 1 card here. Alright, Portalcraft, let's see what's new with you. Paracelsus. Evolve. Put either a guard form golem or a strike form golem into your hand, and it's a 2.22 that evolves to a 4/4. So it's kind of like a Levi, a 2/2 with full evolve stats that gives you something. What are the somethings? A 3/3 with ward, enhance 4, gain +1/+2 for 2 play points, so that's pretty good. Or strike form golem, a 3/3 with rush, enhance 4, gain +2/+1. Interesting. It's interesting because it doesn't really curve out that well. Like, you can't evolve the Well, I guess it does, because you evolve the Paracelsus on turn 4, and then you can play this +1 drop, or this +2 drop if you're on, if you're going first. Again, Portalcraft is so hard to judge for me, because we've only really seen one effective archetype from Portalcraft, which is the mid-range artifact builds. But if there is an artifact Portalcraft build, or maybe not even artifact Portalcraft, but just straight up mid-range Portalcraft build, this is like an okay card. It's a vanilla 2/2 that evolves and gives you more resources. I don't think that can be a bad thing. And the resources are overstated for their cost with an upside. Yeah, seems solid. The only thing is, again, with Portalcraft, I have no idea if that's gonna fit into any sort of archetype. Oh, one more from Portalcraft here. Ancient Apparatus, 1 play point amulet. If Resonance is active for you, play this as either an Artifact Squadron or an Artifact's Glow. Or, if Resonance is not active, it's a countdown 2 at the end of your turn. Put 2 of the following cards into your deck randomly. Mystic Artifact, Radiant Artifact, or Prime Artifact. That's interesting, so you can't get Ancients from this. You can't get Ancients or Analyzings from this, so it's only the expensive ones, the 3 play point and up ones. Artifact Squadron. At the start of your turn, put a random artifact that costs at least 3 play points from your deck into your hand. Artifact's Glow. Whenever you play an artifact card, restore 1 defense to your leader. I think it's kind of a tall ask to put these super clunky big guys randomly into your deck. Like, if this gave you... imagine if this gave you Radiance all the time. That would be kind of insane. But, I don't know if you want to be flooding your deck with prime artifacts. Like, that's not something that you usually want to be doing. Especially since some Portal players don't really like the randomness of it. Like, some people are cutting back Ring Swordsman for that reason. And, this is even worse, because the fail case of this is that you get, like, a ton of clunky cards in your deck that you can't cycle through efficiently enough. Artifact Squadron, on the other hand, it's an interesting effect. It's at the start of your turn, so... Does that, like, mess with your Resonance procs at all? I don't think so. Excuse me, I sneezed there for a second. Good thing my mic has a mute button. It's an interesting effect. I don't know. I feel like a lot of Portalcraft's draw right now is that they can cycle through the really cheap artifacts super efficiently. And this kind of thing that relies more on the super expensive one, I think you can sort of tailor your deck to have good enough tutors that you don't need to be running something like Artifact Squadron. Ancient Apparatus I just kind of don't like in general. And Artifact's Glow. It's a defensive tool for Portalcraft. This might actually be useful. I don't know. I'm really not sold on the other two. Artifact's Glow is interesting. I think if Artifact's Glow was just the card, I might have like weirdly enough, I might have a better impression of this. I don't know. This seems like it's not great. Okay, neutrals. First off, there's a card named Legendary Fighter, and it's literally a Legendary Fighter. That's pretty amazing. But the effect, whenever another follower evolves, gain the ability to attack 2 times per turn. Whenever you play a spell, gain Bane. Whenever you play an amulet, gain Rush. At the start of your turn, gain +8/+8. This follower has the ability to attack 2 times per turn, Bane and Rush. This card is like criminally underrated. It's a 2.22 legendary, which again I'm not such a fan of in terms of just upping the cost of cards here. Just having 2.22 vanilla for legendary rarity. But that's a lot of effects in one card. And it's not that hard to proc them like at all. But let's take a look at each one, I guess. Whenever another allied follower evolves, gain the ability to attack 2 times per turn. That makes this thing a threat, like, in the upcoming evolve turns. And if you play this on 4 with another 2-drop, then your opponent has to choose between dealing with the evolve 2-drop or this guy, who can now attack twice per turn. That's something that you can use to screw your opponent over. A 2.22 with Bane, and all you have to do is play a spell to get that? That's, like, legit. That's actually real. Whenever you play an Amulet, gain Rush. That one's probably, like, the least whelming? Is that a word? It's like the least impressive, I guess. But still, a 2.22 with Rush if you're already playing an Amulet-based deck. Not bad. The last effect, though, at the start of your turn, gain +8/+8. That's kind of a meme. There's no way this thing is living if you activate all of these effects at the same time, and it's at the start of your turn. So that's probably never going to happen. Unless you, like, D-shift, and, like, why would you do that? Unless you're doing it for the memes. But the other effects are, like, pretty good. And I think this card is being looked over just because, oh, it's another 2.22 with some weird conditions. I think a lot of people are looking at this. A lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, it's not so great. But from what I've seen anyway of people discussing this card, not enough people are looking at this. Like, this is real. Let's see, what else for neutrals? Is that it? Or, oh no, here we go. Couple more here. Genesis of Legend. That is a cool card name. 2 play points, silver amulet. That is so sick. Look at that art. At the end of your turn, give a random allied follower +0, +1, and Bane. Okay, well, the effect is like not good at all. I think it's that's not great. That can really be played around. It doesn't do anything by itself, and it's competing in the 2 play point slot, which is one of the most competitive slots in the game. So that's probably not going to be run, which is a shame because the card art is amazing. Gosh darn. And finally, Investigation, 2 play point. Spell, draw a card, and hand 6. Draw 3 cards instead. I mean, if you're playing like Spell Boost Rune, you already have what's it called? Fate's Hand reprinted, so that's a thing. You play this in Spartacus Sword, maybe? I don't know. This seems like it's kind of eh. But you know, 2 play point draw cards have been run in the past, depending on whether or not the game is really combo friendly. I mean, I should say the meta rather. If the meta is really combo friendly, this legit is a card that could see play. But if it's really tempo friendly, I don't think there's any way that this card sees play. It's again one of those cards that is it's a mediocre card that can see play depending on what meta we're in. And there you go. That's all of the cards from Brigade of the Sky, done and dusted, reviewed. Clap, clap. Let me know what you think about the cards in the comments down below. Am I right? Am I wrong? I'd love to know your thoughts. Like the video if you did. Don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more Shadowverse content. You know what to do. It's all that good stuff. Ring the bell icon because I don't know how YouTube works anymore. Sometimes some videos show up, sometimes they don't. Of course, thank you to my wonderful patrons, patreon.com/Ignideus. If you'd like to support the channel as well, I would highly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.